The breaking point. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Conclave fell silent as Admiral Joanna Hayes stepped forward, her uniform pristine, her expression carved from stone. The floating platforms arranged in a perfect circle above her held representatives from 27 spacefaring civilizations, each looking down with expressions ranging from disdain to barely concealed fear. The conclave has reached its decision, announced High Arbiter Zenthos, his translucent tentacles rippling with bioluminescence. Humanity must surrender its outer colonies in the Orion Arm as reparations for violating Conclave Directive 3391. Admiral Hayes didn't flinch. She had expected this, the culmination of decades of the Conclave moving the goalposts, changing the rules whenever humanity showed promise. What the Conclave called violations, humans called survival. "And if we refuse?" she asked, voice echoing across the vast chamber. The Vexillian representative leaned forward, his scaled face contorting into what passed for a smile in his species. "Then the Conclave will be forced to implement corrective measures." The threat hung in the air between them. Admiral Hayes nodded once, turned on her heel and walked out without another word. Behind her, the chamber erupted in startled whispers. No species had ever simply walked out on a Conclave decree before. Aboard the UES Defiance, Commander Marcus Reed was waiting in the secure communications room. His face was grim, hands clenched behind his back as Hayes entered. "They've done it, haven't they?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes," Hayes replied, removing her ceremonial cap. "But that's not what concerns me. What have you found?" Reed's jaw tightened as he activated the holographic display. "New Horizon Colony, Admiral, it's gone." The display showed the smoldering ruins of what had once been humanity's most promising frontier settlement. Bodies lay scattered among the rubble, many of them children. "Over 6,000 civilians," Reed continued, voice tight with controlled rage. "No warning, no declaration. The Keldorian fleet hit them with antimatter charges while our diplomatic team was in session with the Conclave." Hayes studied the footage, her expression unchanged but her eyes growing colder by the second. "They timed it deliberately. They wanted us distracted." "There's more," Reed said, switching the display to show a transmission intercept. "We picked this up from Keldorian military channels. It wasn't meant for us to hear." The translation appeared on screen. "The human infestation at New Horizon has been sanitized. Proceed with Phase 2 at the Terra Nova settlement." Hayes stared at the words, something shifting permanently inside her. For centuries, humanity had played by the Conclave's rules, bent over backwards to accommodate alien sensibilities, apologized for their aggressive nature and emotional unpredictability. And this was their reward: slaughtered children and plans for more. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," she said quietly. "Authorization code Hayes Omega 63. Reed's eyes widened. "Admiral, that's the—" "I know what it is, Commander." Her voice was steel wrapped in silk. "It's time." Within hours, every human ambassador across the galaxy received the same encrypted message. "Lazarus Protocol initiated. Return home immediately." In Earth's orbital command center, Defense Secretary Nathaniel Wolf watched as the reports came in. One by one, human diplomatic missions were closing, trade agreements were being suspended, and ships were charting courses back to Sol. "Are we certain about this?" he asked the woman beside him. Director Fiona Walsh of Intelligence Division nodded, her silver hair shining under the harsh lights. "We've documented 712 violations of sovereignty, 43 unprovoked attacks on civilian targets, and now this massacre, all while we tried to negotiate in good faith." She handed him a tablet. "We've also confirmed the Keldorians are moving on Terra Nova. They'll be there in 18 hours. Wolf signed the authorization with his thumbprint. "Activate the Thanatos contingency." Across the solar system, hidden facilities began powering up. In the Neptune shipyards, vessels that officially didn't exist prepared for deployment. On Mars, the quantum communications network switched to wartime protocols. And deep within Titan's icy crust, Dr. Elijah Frost received the authorization he'd been waiting 20 years for. "They've gone too far this time," he whispered to his team as the laboratory's lights shifted to combat status. "Begin Project Prometheus initialization." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Admiral Hayes addressed her crew. "For centuries, humanity has tried to be part of this galactic community," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the ship. "We've followed their rules, accepted their judgments, and turned the other cheek when they struck us. Today, that ends." The crew stood at attention, faces grim but resolute. "They thought we were weak because we were willing to compromise. They thought we were primitive because we still feel emotion. They thought our diplomacy was desperation." Her eyes swept across the assembled officers. They were wrong. In the Keldorian flagship approaching Terra Nova, Fleet Commander Grax was confident. The humans had proved themselves predictable. They would protest to the Conclave, file formal complaints, perhaps even impose token sanctions. By the time their bureaucracy finished processing the paperwork, the Keldorians would control the resource-rich Orion arm. He was just receiving the attack coordinates when his communications officer froze. "Commander," the officer said, voice trembling, "all human signals have ceased everywhere simultaneously." Grax frowned. "What do you mean ceased?" "Their diplomatic channels, their trade networks, their entertainment broadcasts, everything just stopped." Before Grax could respond, space itself seemed to tear open as 5 unmarked warships emerged from what should have been impossible trajectories. They weren't using standard FTL corridors, they had simply appeared. "Unidentified vessels," Grax barked into the comms. "This is a Conclave-sanctioned operation, stand down immediately." The response came not over communications, but appeared directly on every screen in the Keldorian fleet. A simple message in universal script. Silent retaliation. Dr. Elijah Frost had never considered himself a wartime scientist. For 20 years, he'd justified his work as purely defensive, a contingency plan that would never see the light of day. Yet here he stood in the heart of Titan Research Station, watching as Project Prometheus came online. "Quantum entanglement network at full capacity," reported his deputy, Dr. Lydia Ackafer. "Neural interface nodes are synced across all military vessels." The technology they developed in secret was simple in concept but revolutionary in execution, a communications and weapons control system that operated outside normal spacetime. Unhackable, untraceable, and to the rest of the galaxy seemingly impossible. "Begin Phase 1 distribution," Frost ordered, his finger hovering over the activation control. "And may God forgive us for what we're about to do." The system hummed to life, sending invisible tendrils of quantum-locked data throughout human space. Within minutes, every military vessel had received new operational parameters, while civilian ships were being quietly directed home through encrypted channels. Across the galaxy, the silence from humanity was deafening. The species that had once bombarded the networks with everything from trade proposals to entertainment broadcasts had gone completely dark. Some Conclave members celebrated what they saw as humanity finally accepting its place. The wiser ones began fortifying their borders. Lieutenant Tara Singh slipped through the crowded streets of Xandor Prime, the central hub of the Conclave's intelligence apparatus. Dressed as a maintenance worker, her implants suppressing her human biosignature, she made her way toward the central data nexus. The Xandorians, with their superior computational abilities, had been tasked with coordinating the integration of human territories, a euphemism for the systematic dismantling of human sovereignty. "In position," she subvocalized, the quantum transmitter embedded in her jawbone sending the message instantaneously to command. "Proceed with Operation Blackout," came the immediate response from Director Walsh. Singh inserted the specialized device into the Xandorian network terminal. Unlike traditional hacking tools, this one didn't attempt to break the alien encryption. It simply created a quantum connection to the human network, allowing their AI systems to map and mirror the entire Xandorian intelligence architecture. In 20 seconds, humanity had every battle plan, every classified directive, and every secret communication the Conclave had ever made regarding Earth. "They really do hate us," Singh whispered as she scanned the data flooding her augmented vision. "Plans for population management, genetic stabilization, and cultural assimilation, all euphemisms for the eventual subjugation or elimination of humanity." "Get out of there," Director Walsh ordered. "The package is delivering itself." As Singh extracted the device and slipped away, the true nature of her mission unfolded. The quantum transmitter hadn't just copied data, it had inserted a dormant protocol into the Xandorian network, one that would activate the moment they attempted to launch any operation against human space. Aboard the UES Defiance, Admiral Hayes received the confirmation of Singh's success just as the Keldorian fleet near Terra Nova went silent. Commander Reed's tactical display showed 5 previously unknown human vessels surrounding the alien armada. "Status of Terra Nova," Hayes demanded. "Colony intact," Reed confirmed. "Our ships intercepted the Keldorians before they could deploy weapons." Hayes nodded, allowing herself a moment of satisfaction. "And the Keldorian fleet?" Reed hesitated. "That's unclear, Admiral. They're still there, but they're not responding to any communications. Our ships report that the Keldorian vessels are intact but dormant." The implications hung in the air. Project Prometheus hadn't destroyed the enemy fleet, it had done something far more terrifying. It had simply turned them off. At the Galactic Conclave's emergency session, panic was spreading. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy of human vessels disappearing from tracking systems, of defense networks experiencing unexplained glitches, of communication relays failing when attempting to monitor human space. This is precisely why we sought to restrict them, the Vexillian representative shouted, scales flaring in agitation. They've been developing forbidden technologies in secret. High Arbiter Zenthos raised his appendages for silence. We must remain calm. The humans are simply throwing a tantrum. Their technological capacity is well documented and well contained. As if in response to his words, every light in the conclave chamber flickered once. The massive holographic display at the center of the room changed from the conclave emblem to a simple image, the ruins of New Horizon Colony, bodies still visible among the wreckage. What is the meaning of this? Zenthos demanded, his bioluminescence flashing in patterns of distress. The image changed to a recording of the Keldorian attack, showing the systematic bombing of civilian structures. Then it shifted again to intercepted communications, plans for further attacks, and finally, most damning of all, the Conclave's own sealed directives authorizing the containment of human expansion by any means necessary. The chamber descended into chaos as accusations flew. Some species demanded immediate military action against humanity. Others began withdrawing their representatives, fearful of association with what was increasingly looking like a catastrophic miscalculation. In Earth's orbital command center, Defense Secretary Wolf watched the feed from the conclave chamber with grim satisfaction. Begin Phase 2, he ordered. Let's show them exactly what they've provoked. Throughout human space, hidden facilities activated. Shipyards that had been disguised as mining operations revealed their true purpose. Defense platforms that had appeared to be simple research stations powered up weapons systems that violated every conclave restriction. And in the depths of Jupiter's atmosphere, the greatest secret of all began to stir. A fleet of vessels constructed not from conventional materials but from programmable matter. Ships that could adapt their structure and function on the fly, immune to the standard weapons and tactics of the conclave forces. As humanity's true military capacity revealed itself, one thing became terrifyingly clear to the watching galaxy. The humans hadn't been following the conclave's restrictions out of weakness or fear. They had been holding back. And now the leash was off. Part 3: The Whispers of War. General Victor Oberon had never wanted to be a wartime leader. A veteran of Earth's last internal conflicts, he had seen enough bloodshed to last several lifetimes. Yet as he stood in the command center of Deimos Base, watching the holographic representation of human forces moving into position throughout the galaxy, he felt a cold certainty that history would remember him as the architect of something terrible and necessary. Stealth Squadrons report ready, his aide announced. Ghost Fleet is in position near the 7 primary conclave worlds. Oberon nodded, his weathered face betraying no emotion. And the evacuation of our citizens. 94% complete. The remaining 6% are either in transit or in regions too remote for immediate extraction. The general placed his hands on the tactical table, studying the intricate dance of forces. Humanity had prepared for this scenario for generations, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep understanding of their place in the galactic order. They had always been tolerated, never accepted, used for their innovation and adaptability, but feared for the same qualities. Begin Operation Shadow Veil, he ordered. No strikes yet, just make sure they know we're there. Across the galaxy, human stealth vessels decloaked just long enough to be detected by conclave sensors. Warships appearing in high orbit over capital worlds. Scout vessels materializing inside supposedly secure defense perimeters. Supply ships hovering at the edges of important trade routes. A message without words, we can reach you anywhere. Meanwhile, in the diplomatic quarter of the conclave's central world, Ambassador Naomi Torres prepared for what would likely be her final appearance before the assembly. Unlike Admiral Hayes, she would not be walking out. She had a message to deliver. This is madness, her aide whispered as they approached the chamber. The Keldorian fleet is still unresponsive, the Xandorian networks are in chaos, and now we're threatening their homeworlds. They'll destroy us. Torres adjusted her formal attire, the traditional diplomatic uniform of Earth, not the conclave-approved robes. They would if they could, Jonathan, but they can't, and that's what terrifies them. The chamber fell silent as Torres entered. Gone were the imperious stares and dismissive gestures. Now, the representatives of the 27 most powerful species in the known galaxy watched her with undisguised apprehension. Ambassador Torres, High Arbiter Zenthos began, his voice lacking its usual authoritative resonance. The conclave is prepared to discuss the unfortunate incidents at New Horizon, and I am not here to discuss, Torres interrupted, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I am here to inform. She activated a small device, and the chamber's holographic system came under her control, another demonstration of humanity's ability to bypass supposedly impenetrable security. The whispers of war. General Victor Oberon had never wanted to be a wartime leader. A veteran of Earth's last internal conflicts, he had seen enough bloodshed to last several lifetimes. Yet as he stood in the command center of Deimos Base, watching the holographic representation of human forces moving into position throughout the galaxy, he felt a cold certainty that history would remember him as the architect of something terrible and necessary. Stealth squadrons report ready, his aide announced. Ghost Fleet is in position near the 7 primary conclave worlds. Oberon nodded, his weathered face betraying no emotion. And the evacuation of our citizens. 94% complete. The remaining 6% are either in transit or in regions too remote for immediate extraction. The general placed his hands on the tactical table, studying the intricate dance of forces. Humanity had prepared for this scenario for generations, not out of paranoia, but out of a deep understanding of their place in the galactic order. They had always been tolerated, never accepted, used for their innovation and adaptability, but feared for the same qualities. Begin Operation Shadow Veil, he ordered. No strikes yet, just make sure they know we're there. This is madness, her aide whispered as they approached the chamber. The Keldorian fleet is still unresponsive, the Xandorian networks are in chaos, and now we're threatening their homeworlds. They'll destroy us. Torres adjusted her formal attire, the traditional diplomatic uniform of Earth, not the conclave-approved robes. They would if they could, Jonathan, but they can't, and that's what terrifies them. The chamber fell silent as Torres entered. Gone were the imperious stares and dismissive gestures. Now, the representatives of the 27 most powerful species in the known galaxy watched her with undisguised apprehension. Ambassador Torres, High Arbiter Zenthos began, his voice lacking its usual authoritative resonance. The conclave is prepared to discuss the unfortunate incidents at New Horizon, and I am not here to discuss, Torres interrupted, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. I am here to inform. She activated a small device, and the chamber's holographic system came under her control, another demonstration of humanity's ability to bypass supposedly impenetrable security. For 3 centuries, humanity has sought to be a productive member of this conclave, she said as images appeared above her, the history of human integration into galactic society. We have contributed technological innovations, cultural exchanges, medical advancements, and peacekeeping forces. The images changed to show human contributions, followed by conclave restrictions, sanctions, and appropriations. High Arbiter Zenthos' bioluminescence flashed in patterns of alarm. These allegations are factual. Torres cut him off. We have all the data, Arbiter. Every communication, every directive, every secret meeting. The conclave has been planning our subjugation from the day we achieved faster-than-light travel. The silence that followed was deafening. Humanity is hereby withdrawing from the Galactic Conclave, Torres announced. We claim full sovereignty over our existing territories and the right to defend ourselves by any means necessary against further aggression. This is unprecedented, the Vexillian representative sputtered. You cannot simply withdraw, there are treaties, agreements. Agreements you violated when you authorized the murder of our civilians, Torres replied coldly. As for what is unprecedented, she gestured, and the holographic display showed the positions of human stealth vessels throughout conclave space. We're just getting started. As Torres left the chamber, the message was clear. Humanity was done playing by rules designed to keep them subservient. The whispers of war had begun. Across the galaxy, news of humanity's withdrawal spread like wildfire. Smaller species that had long chafed under conclave domination watched with a mixture of fear and hope. If humans could break free, perhaps there was another way forward for everyone. Back on Earth, in the secure underground complex beneath Geneva, Chancellor Pierce convened an emergency session of the unified Earth government. The die is cast, he informed the gathered leaders. Ambassador Torres has delivered our message. The conclave now understands that we are not merely reacting, we are reclaiming our rightful place among the stars. Defense Secretary Wolf stood, projecting the latest intelligence. The conclave military response is fragmented. Some species are calling for immediate action against us, others are pulling back to protect their core worlds. And the Keldorians, asked the representative from the Mars colony. Still trying to reactivate their fleet, Director Walsh answered. Project Prometheus has rendered their ships inert but intact, a demonstration of our capability without unnecessary bloodshed. Chancellor Pierce nodded with approval. That's the balance we must maintain. We show strength without becoming the monsters they've always feared we were. The chamber doors opened, and a technician rushed in, handing Wolf a data pad. The defense secretary's expression darkened as he read it. Sir, he said, addressing Pierce, we've detected multiple Zethkra battle groups mobilizing near the Arcturus colony. They appear to be preparing for a direct assault. The room fell silent. The Zethkra were the Conclave's premier military force, ruthless, technologically advanced, and utterly devoted to maintaining the established order. They're testing us, Walsh said quietly, seeing if our display of force was merely a bluff. Pierce's expression hardened. Then we will show them it wasn't. He turned to General Oberon. Deploy the Nemesis battle group to Arcturus, full defensive posture, but make it clear that any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. As the orders went out, Admiral Hayes stepped forward. Chancellor, this could escalate quickly. The Zethkra don't back down easily. If they engage, we may be looking at the first true interstellar war involving humanity. Pierce looked around the room at the leaders of Earth's unified government. Men and women representing a species that had fought itself to the brink of extinction multiple times before finally achieving peace. We didn't want this, he said firmly. We tried diplomacy for 3 centuries. We endured their restrictions, their condescension, their exploitation. We even turned the other cheek when they murdered our children. His voice grew resolute. But no more. If they want to test humanity's resolve, they will learn what our ancestors discovered long ago, that there is nothing more dangerous in this universe than humans who have been pushed too far. The Arcturus system became still as death as the Zethkra battle fleet approached the human colony. 16 massive warships, each capable of reducing a planet's surface to slag, moved with predatory grace toward their target. And waiting for them, appearing as if from nowhere, was the Nemesis, a vessel that according to all Conclave intelligence should not exist. A ship built with technology the humans were never supposed to possess. As the two forces faced each other across the void, the galaxy held its breath. The next move would determine whether the future would bring war or a new understanding, whether humanity would be forced to unleash its full technological might, or whether the Conclave would finally recognize them as equals. Supreme Commander Verk of the Zethkra studied the human vessel on his tactical display. His species had conquered 1,000 worlds, broken empires, and extinguished entire civilizations that had dared to challenge the Conclave's authority. Yet something gave him pause, something in the quiet confidence of the human ship, in the way it made no threatening moves despite being outnumbered, in the way its captain had simply positioned his vessel between the Zethkra fleet and the human colony, a silent guardian ready to fulfill its duty. Sir, his tactical officer reported, our systems cannot get a targeting lock on the human vessel. Their defensive field it's like nothing we've encountered before. Verk considered his options. His orders were to demonstrate the Conclave's continued dominance, to show these upstart humans that their technological tricks would not save them from the established order of the galaxy. But as he studied the situation, a realization dawned on him, one that would change the course of galactic history. The humans weren't bluffing. Their withdrawal from the Conclave wasn't an emotional outburst or a negotiating tactic. It was the culmination of centuries of preparation for exactly this moment. All vessels hold position, he commanded. Open a channel to the human ship. When Captain Blackwell's face appeared on the screen, Verk saw not fear or uncertainty, but the calm resolve of someone who had already accepted all possible outcomes. You are outnumbered, Verk stated, following protocol. Blackwell's expression didn't change. Numbers ceased to matter the moment your kind decided to bomb civilians. The truth of those words hung between them. In that moment, Supreme Commander Verk of the mighty Zethkra made a decision that would be debated for generations. Stand down all weapons, he ordered his fleet. We are withdrawing from Arcturus space. The whispers of war faded into a tense silence. Not peace, not yet, but perhaps the first step toward a new understanding. One where humanity would no longer accept anything less than true equality among the stars. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. 3.7 Sonnet.